really the heart of the dream of this evening was built around this idea that we might have a moderated conversation between people of very different viewpoints. And we knew it was a risk. Like, this is something that is terrifying at Thanksgiving for many of us. But we found some people who we think can pull it off. So I'd like you to welcome Meg Mott, our moderator and Constitution Wrangler. And a panel of three neighbors, Gemma Seymour, Tristan Roberts, Susie Webster-Toleno. Give them a warm welcome, please.
Hello, everybody. Can't see you. You can see us. That's how it works in the theater. When Indivisible asked me to moderate a discussion, I said, I'm not sure you want me. I'm not a protest kind of girl. I'm a persuader. I'm really interested when progressives, conservatives, and libertarians disagree. I love it when people reach out of their echo chamber and take on a really difficult topic. So I didn't realize Indivisible is totally on that bandwagon as well. So I want to thank Ben Lord and also Katie and Jessica for reaching out. And then I said, okay, you're interested in persuasion? I'm interested in persuasion. You're interested in politics, in which I understand people getting together, having different points of view, arguing, trying to figure it out, kind of like a town meeting, and then reaching a conclusion, and then quickly realizing the consequences of their actions may be a little regrettable. That's what politics is. So I wanted to work with people who I knew would bring their true selves into this and that we would get some interesting sparks. So I said, I'll do it if we can have Gemma Seymour, Tristan Roberts, and Susie Webster-Toleno. And I'm so happy that each of them decided to do it. Yeah. But let me tell you why I'm super excited by this group. And that is, if you're gonna do politics, you're gonna have to deal with, I'm gonna speak to myself as well, the urge to dominate. It's one of the things about human beings. If we get power, we love to dominate. And so there has to be something that holds us back. So I'm going to Bayard Rustin, who was one of the architects of the civil rights movement. And he had 5 reasons why you could do politics. But if you don't hold on to these touchstones, it's not going to go well. So, number 1, you need to use nonviolent tactics. And that's something Indivisible has shown they can do super well. The House Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, recognized 2 days after the No Kings rally in October that there had been no violence. That's enormous. No violence. The next thing you need to have, number 2, is democratic practices. I wanted Tristan to be part of this because of his experience in the state legislature, and he understands how to talk to people. And what democracy does look like, it's a lot of negotiations, trying to put together a coalition. So give it up for Tristan for democratic practices. Number 3, constitutional principles. Democracy, as some of the speakers tonight have told you, it's kind of a mixed bag. You don't have the Constitution. You could easily have tyranny of the majority. So I met Gemma because Gemma comes to the Constitution Wranglers hoedowns at the Brooks Memorial Library. And Gemma has impressed me enormously with her intelligence about First Amendment, Second Amendment, and all corners and alleyways in the Constitution. So give it up for Gemma. The 4th, there's only 5, because I only have 5 fingers. The 4th is respect for human personality. That means understanding that human beings have psychology. We have impulses, urges. We have hopes and fears. We do things we often regret, but we do them anyway. That is the human personality. So I wanted Susie here to help us really appreciate the craziness and the mystery of the human personality. Give it up for Susie. Okay, number 5 is this belief that all people are one. That's a hard one to do right now, especially in a very divided country, a very divided world. We can point to people that we are seriously in disagreement with, who we are afraid of, who we may even at times hate. I don't recommend it, it's not good for the soul. But that impulse has to be measured with the 5th principle, which is belief that all people are one. So who is that? That's you guys. You can see us. You're going to be watching us. You're going to be making judgments about us. You're going to figure out by the end of this 40-minute debate that we're just human beings doing the best we can. So please give it up for yourselves. For number 5, all people are one. Okay, let's get real. I wanted to find a disagreement, and this brave crew agreed that we have a disagreement. And this is a disagreement about a recent state move. Department of Child and Families recently instituted a new rule. And the rule requires, and I quote, respect for the worth of all individuals, regardless of sex, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Now, when DCF passed this rule, and I'm going to guess that many people here think that's a very good rule, 2 families that were foster parents decided, they were asked to fill out a form with a 1 to 5 scale, and they said, I can't do this. I can't get support behind this new rule. So they sued the state of Vermont. Both had been licensed in the past. They objected to the new rule as a violation of 2 rights, both of which are in the First Amendment. One is the right to free speech, and the other is the right to religious expression. So this suit went forward, and the Federal District Court, this is Second Circuit, sided with the state of Vermont. And it is now going to be appealed because the next step you have in our judicial system, you may lose, you get to try again. A lovely thing, I think. So I am going to first turn the mics over to Gemma. And Gemma, can you give us a sense of why this new rule makes a lot of sense and is a good thing? And then, just to let you know, I'm going to ask Tristan for some other perspectives on this new rule. So we're going to go through a little bit of a mini debate here. First one side, then another side, then some response to one another. And then we're not going to solve this problem, and I'm not going to ask you to vote. I'm going to turn to Susie and ask her what she saw in that debate. And if she was working with 2 people within the same extended family who might be at the same Thanksgiving table, what might she want to say, or what might she ask of them? So we're going to spend a little bit of time thinking about the debate and what some of the feelings around it. And then finally, if we have enough time, we are going to then ask the larger question, what should we do about foster care in Vermont? Because that's the underlying issue. What can we all do to create the best conditions for kids in the foster care system? And then finally, I'm going to ask each one of them what it was like to stick their neck out a little bit, talk about something that's hard, consider it from different points of view. So that's our game plan, and I will now, without further ado, turn it to Gemma.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you don't mind me reading a bit from my notes. Unfortunately, I had these on paper, but the last 2 pages were completely missing when I got here, so they must be sitting on top of my printer at home. During the emails, that we were using to discuss what we were going to talk about tonight, the first question popped up in one of the emails: can we talk to one another? And a lot of the presenters that have been on stage tonight have gone directly to that issue. Yes, we can talk to one another, but in order to be able to communicate, we have to share a common understanding of the definitions and the intent behind the words we're using. It's not an accident of linguistics that the root com, together with, appears in these words: common, community, communication, compassion. I often say that I take my ethics from Taoism, the three virtues articulated by Lao Tzu: compassion, frugality, and forbearance. I strive to live up to these ideals and to recognize when I have failed them. I, of course, fail more often than I would prefer. Perhaps the biggest problem that we are facing in our civic and community lives in the present day is the extremely poor quality of our means and methods of communications, largely because the social media platforms are being manipulated to show us what they want to show us. They generate outrage for profit. I say this with some chagrin as someone who founded the first 100% broadband end user ISP in America in the 1990s. I was part of that generation that built this system naively, thinking that we were revolutionizing the ways that people were going to be able to come together. And what we were actually doing was building the foundation for the ways in which people would be torn apart. We live in an era that is widely perceived that anti-democratic forces are on the rise, not only in the United States, but around the globe. That democracy is under attack, that we must save democracy. But I would submit to you that very few of us really mean that we ought to make it our business to protect the tyranny of the majority. Rather, it seems clear to me that what is under attack and which must be defended is constitutionalism. The idea that there are legal limits to government power, that the legitimate powers of government can only derive from the natural rights of its people, and that the legitimacy of any government extends only so far as it guarantees the natural rights, not of those who consent to its power, but of those who refuse their consent to its power. Here is my statement of values. I believe that all the living are inherently equal in dignity and by virtue of existence alone are entitled to equal rights, that these rights must necessarily be equal regardless of time or place or of birth or arrival in some jurisdiction, or they could not be said to be rights in the first place. To the equal protection of those rights under the law, to an equal voice in the determination of that law, to an equal opportunity to participate in society, and to an equal and common share in the natural property of the world, that it might be used to freely seek their subsistence, well-being, and self-actualization. In considering the question, what does democracy look like, it is necessary for us to recognize some facts.
Gemma, I just want you to know you only have about 2 more minutes.
Okay, the word democracy does not appear anywhere in the text of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution of the United States. The word citizen does not appear anywhere in the Bill of Rights at all. It's important to remember that the Constitution is not a document of what the people may and may not do. It's a document of what the government may or may not do. This is frequently misunderstood. The case we have before us in Vermont is Woty v. Winters. And I think it is important to note that Vermont's DCF policy does not compel speech, as the plaintiffs contend. Vermont law in this matter does not compel action of any kind. It compels, rather, government inaction, which is a very different thing. There is thus no violation of Amendment 1, and to accede to the plaintiff's demands would actually create an establishment of religion, which Amendment 1 explicitly forbids. The plaintiffs are free to practice their religion in their own home, and the state necessarily and practically cannot without great cause intercede in the family lives of natural parents. However, the plaintiffs are not natural parents. They are merely potential applicants to become foster parents, and so they do not have the same legal standing as natural parents, and nor should they. The state of Vermont has no legal duty to recognize a religious exemption in this manner. Insofar as it regards children in the foster care system, the state of Vermont has a responsibility as the legal guardian of these children to protect them against undue discrimination. Vermont's Constitution and Vermont statutes guarantee to all Vermonters the right to express their sex, gender, and their sexual or affectional orientation as they see fit. I think I will stop there for right now because I think that's all the setup that we really need to go into this before we examine it in further detail.
Great, thank you, Gemma. And just to sort of reinforce some of those key points before I turn it to Tristan, that the idea that people who are potential parents have no rights. So this is a situation where people are applying to be in the foster system, and they don't have the same parental rights. Therefore, this idea that there should be a religious exception, Gemma also doesn't go along with. And that we need to understand that a key piece to our entire system has to do with equal rights. And that, I'm going to infer, has to do with the rights of children. Tristan.
Thank you, Meg Mott. This is Tristan Roberts speaking up. How's that? Back
Can
there?
you hear? Yeah, I'm sorry, we can't even see you to let you know if you're waving at us.
Yeah, so wave if you can't hear me. The MC said, hey, we want to be able to disagree and live together, and we clapped. So I'm going to test them. This case really is about that. You had let's talk about Katie Wote, is a foster parent, 2 adopted children, 3 biological children, successful licensed foster home. By the way, we're in a current deficit of 115 foster homes in Vermont relative to the need per family. Just flag that. What really haunts me here is, I'll put it in numerical terms, 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. The DCF caseworker came to the Wote's home for relicensing. Notes indicate warm, loving, respectful home. Went back to his desk, sent an email. Hey, we have a new policy about respecting LGBTQ rights. Mm-hmm. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much can you support someone's gender identity in your home? And Katie Wote, I think, took an honest, hard look in the mirror and said, 3 out of 5. Mm-hmm. Which, on one hand, is far less than, it's not a 5-star review, right? On the other hand, I'd be glad to get 3 out of 5 from my partner in terms of their happiness about me in their home on any given day. So we're not talking about the Pacific Ocean in terms of the distance on this issue. We're talking about, the caseworker wrote back and said, is there any way we could get that up to a 4? Didn't offer any tools, didn't offer counseling, didn't say, here's some behaviors we're looking for that would make that a 4 or 5 in our eyes. And there are evidence-based behaviors in the home. DCF Policy 76 says, don't yell at your kids, make them feel safe, enable them in what they need, protect them. This home was shown to be doing that. So I just want to stop there and say, I think if these are folks I would like to be able to work with. I think when you have a 3 out of 5 difference, mm-hmm. and you could get to a 4 maybe, mm-hmm. my heart says, can't we do something here?
Yeah.
And it's clear something wasn't done.
So can I just draw it a little bit more, because you actually have an extra 2 minutes, according to this machine that I'm looking at. So I'm curious, Tristan, so you were able to get some of the details about this case to find out DCF. Why is it of interest to you what DCF is or is not doing, like the actual day-to-day discussions in the home? Why is that important to you?
Look, DCF is way understaffed, and as a legislator, we see this in all our state agencies. They're understaffed. They're not doing core functions. So the way I look at it, this caseworker is, like all caseworkers, overworked, goes to the home, sees good things, but he's like, there's a new policy. What does the typical office worker do when you need to get something out? You send an email, put in a survey. I did my job today. It's too bad. I think we put the state in a difficult position. We put these parents in a difficult position by under-resourcing them. We're not giving the system enough love. Or democracy needs love. If this caseworker had more time to actually spend in the home or coach them, I think we'd have better success.
Great, great. Thank you very much. Gemma, you've heard what Tristan has said. He's concerned about there needs to be more coaching. There needs to be an effort to work with people, and that the system itself is greatly, it's under a lot of stress. What I think the term was 115 homes is a deficit, that there is more need than there are homes, and currently the deficit is 115 homes in the state of Vermont. Do you have any responses or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I first of all would have to say that it is absolutely of the utmost importance that we recognize we're talking about real people's lives here. This isn't just an academic exercise, although I may use a lot of academic terminology and maybe have that demeanor as well. It's never far from my mind that we're talking about real people, real children. And I am all for us giving more resources to a system that is dramatically under-resourced. However, as with so many other things in our state and in our country, we're struggling to find agreement on what money should be spent where. I certainly agree that this is a program that deserves more money.
Is there something that, with this idea of coaching, could you imagine some way that the coaching could happen in a resourceful way, community-based way, that still holds some of your concerns?
I think that's a difficult one for me to answer because, for one thing, I am not a professional social worker. If anything, I am an LGBT activist, and that is not necessarily the standpoint that is going to go over well with a lot of people. They're just going to see this as you're trying to push your agenda on us, and not as you're trying to provide homes for children, which is really what we ought to be doing. One of the things that I was thinking about in terms of, how do we solve this dilemma is in saying that I'm sure a lot of people would look at the situation and they would say, we could just allow these people to continue to have their beliefs, and we just won't give them any kids who have, expressed any kind of sex gender variation or orientation difference from what they consider to be outside the bounds of their religion. And the problem with that is that what about all the kids who just haven't expressed it yet? Do they not have rights? Do they not have rights worthy of protection? What happens when one of those children comes out to those parents? What do we do then?
Great, thank you. Tristan, do you have any questions? We'll go back and forth a little bit with some questions, particularly this point that Gemma raises. I'm an LGBTQ activist. People aren't going to take me seriously because they're just going to think I'm imposing my agenda on them. Do you have any thoughts on that or anything else Gemma said?
I was just my partner and I were talking about this case and putting ourselves in the position of a foster parent who may have a child in our home that we have very different beliefs. Maybe something about their expression, their identity makes me uncomfortable in my beliefs. And could I have a child in my home that I'm responsible for keeping safe, for not verbally abusing, for protecting from others, not creating fear in this child? Could I offer that kind of home while having distinct disagreements, let's say, in our identity? And I thought, yeah, that's parenting, period. I think it's clear that Katie Wody is woefully underprepared for dealing with any kind of sexuality in her home. She states her beliefs are no sex till marriage, no pornography, it's abstinence. And when I first read some of the quotes in the case, I thought, wow, this person really doesn't understand homosexuality, LGBTQ. And I thought, wow, this person doesn't, they're equal opportunity, no sex till marriage, right? This is a topic they're consistently uncomfortable with. It's equal opportunity, and which matters. for our civil rights, right? So, look, one thing I noticed, I've talked to a lot of voters when I ran for office and served, and I talked to a lot of different viewpoints. One thing I observed is we don't understand each other well enough on some of these issues. But people really want to talk. People really, there's a desire to understand each other. And I get concerned when you see, even the use of a 1 to 5 scale is questionable methodologically. It should be maybe 1 to 7 with some wording on there to make it more clear. It's not even well done. It's almost designed to drive us apart.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so we have just seen a mini debate. Two sides of an argument, they're not all agreeing, and they're not just going after each other. We're trying to understand a complicated issue from two different points of view. Susie, do you want to talk about, as if these two people were within a group and you were trying to help them, what thoughts do you have?
Sure. I have to say the two of you did not actually get all that disagreeable with each other. You might be on your best behavior, I don't know. I guess what I would say, I've thought about this a lot, because we framed this when, the good people out here don't know that we framed it, as if we're going into a Thanksgiving holiday and needing to be at the same table with people that we disagree with terribly. And first of all, I'm not sure the two of you disagree with each other terribly, so it's a little artificial. But the other thing I
thought we did more than we have today. Honestly, I thought we had more disagreement than we have shown.
Indeed.
Yeah, actually, in our Zoom call,
Best
we had
behavior.
stronger disagreements than we're having right now.
Best behavior. They're on their best behavior for you. So this is what I was thinking about, is that actually most of us can go to Thanksgiving and put up with crazy uncle whoever who is offensive and either hold it together or get up and leave, right? So actually getting along at the Thanksgiving table, it's 4 hours tops and there's pie, right? Like it's not in my house. It's not that terrible. But what I would like to say is the bigger issue is really the how we talk about each other. This is an important issue for sure, but the how we talk to each other, how we deal. And what I was thinking about is like, what is it like for if the two of you were really on much more different ends of the spectrum, living next to someone whose dog gets into your garbage, or who has egregious use of the lawn, of the leaf blower at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, and has a sign out front that indicates that they don't value who you are as a person, or that they are the very. So you have to approach them about this small neighborly problem, knowing that you don't see eye to eye. And to me, actually, that's an interesting thing to think about.
Susie, can I put you on the spot?
Yes.
There was a big disagreement there. These are very well-behaved people. They know that you all are seeing them. All people are one, so that's trying to mitigate this. This is a very strong disagreement in terms of, so I'm going to bring it up a little bit.
Please do.
And that is, can you imagine being one of those foster parents, and they're now said, no, you can't do this anymore, and the reason is because you aren't sufficiently concerned about the children and their gender identity or sexual orientation. That's going to be a big one.
That is a big disagreement.
And
yes.
I think there's going to be a lot of people in the state of Vermont who are probably going to see this on YouTube or something like that. And I think that's going to be something that will further divide Vermont.
Right, and that's my point, is that those divisions that didn't play out with fireworks here are real and deep. And so how we manage to be in conversation with one another while not agreeing is a really important thing. And so I actually had a thought about that. I like a good pause.
Get off. Can I just take your pause and say, get off of YouTube if you're on it?
Yeah, good pause. You can all pause too. And this is my thought. And having you not, this is, you asked what I would say to people. Not having you answer out loud, but I would invite you to this is like a somatic exercise, right? To think of a time when we felt that you were so deeply heard that you didn't have to fight to make your viewpoint understood. Sometime in your life, when you felt seen and known and heard? And what did that feel like in your body? And when you go to that place, whatever that place is, for me it's kind of here-ish, kind of, and it's easy, it's not full of adrenaline, it's not, I need to fight to be heard, I need to fight to get as many words in as I can. Is it possible that in that moment there could be some listening that happens too? And so what I would encourage going into a difficult conversation is to touch base with whatever that place has been in your life. Hopefully we've all had that. Maybe not all the time. What does that feel like? And then enter that space with the person that you're disagreeing with the person who's using the leaf blower at 6 a.m. and who likes the other candidate.
Great, and can I push this now
Yes,
a little
please.
bit towards this, because that was a beautiful exercise you just took us through. The thing about a court case is it's going up before the appeals court. Somebody's going to win and someone's going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about legal decisions. Will it go to the Supreme Court? I don't know. But somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And this one is a particularly hard one because there are very good arguments on both sides. And it's very easy to perceive LGBTQ versus religious liberties.
True.
Yeah, and just a couple other, and then I'm going to have to do my time thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, so that's in fact what I would say is that, yes, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose, and we still all have to be community to one another. Yeah. And we have to all belong to each other without exception. And that without exception is the hard part. I am not going to suggest for a minute that I do that well. If you were to ask my husband the things I say when I'm at home, when I'm like, it's do we belong to each other? And so part of it is needing to know not so much what we believe, but who we are. And if we are like a core identity, I am someone who believes that we belong to each other. That impacts how we talk to one another, regardless of what we believe.
Great. Okay, I'm sorry to be such a timekeeper
No,
here.
you're
but
supposed to be a timekeeper.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
That's super helpful and a great segue because it does turn out in the state of Utah, 2015, LGBTQ rights, religious liberties, people came together. We weren't as divided then as we are now, but one of the frameworks they use to get people on the same page and pass something that some people call the Utah miracle. And it really is a miracle because if you're old enough and you remember Proposition 8 during the Obama election, Proposition 8, state of California said same-sex marriage is not permitted. So at the same time that Obama goes into the presidency, California says no. And the reason California said no is it was a well-funded campaign by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's a lot of bad blood, a lot of reasons not to trust. But they came together and they came up with something. And here's a little framework that both parties in these two groups, 5 minutes, okay, great. Both parties in these two groups want to follow their moral compass, an inner moral compass. Both parties in these two groups want to bring their authentic selves into the public sphere. They don't want to be in the closet. And the third one, neither group wants to be persecuted by the state. They don't want to be told what they can and cannot do by the state. So this one's even more complicated than Utah because it's about foster and children. So Vermont's now looking at the next frontier of trying to solve this problem, knowing that after a court decision, there's going to be winners and losers, and can we do what Susie says and still belong to each other? So, Gemma, any thoughts on what it might look like post-decision?
I don't know. I have to return to the decision earlier this year in U.S. v. Scrimetti, which there was a documentary shown here a couple of weeks ago or a week ago about that called Heightened Scrutiny. And I think one of the things that we have to recognize in this country is that post-2015, when the Obergefell decision on same-sex marriage was announced, what that did was free up some very well-funded organizations to take all of their money and stop attacking same-sex marriage and start attacking transgender rights. And in that time, they have absolutely flooded the airwaves with misinformation about the nature of what it means to be trans and what the treatments are and who they are given to, especially with regard to children. And that is what the Skrmetti case was about. And surprisingly, the reasoning given by the majority in Skrmetti was that they were very highly influenced by this specious notion that there is some sort of medical controversy about the effectiveness of transgender treatment for children. And when there really is not, and none of the medical evidence supports that.
So sorry to cut you off just because I have to do my time thing. It sounds like what you would like to see is more information getting out there that corrects the current campaign.
That is true,
Yeah,
yes.
great. Just
I'm going to take this by going to your question. And I had this scenario yesterday. It was not a leaf blower. It was an armory. It's like the weekend that my neighbor with the Long Island friends, buddies from high school, they all get together. And I mean, the hills were shaking. Boom, boom. And it was daytime. They're allowed to do this in the daytime, I told myself. And I texted him. and a couple of years ago, I just went over there and brought him a peach pie. And he let me shoot a big gun. So I got his number. And I just texted him yesterday. I said, dude, are you letting off grenades over there today? And he texted back today. He said, yeah, that's it for the year. Like, that's my weekend. And all I want to say about this is that just keep talking. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, give out a pie so you can get a phone number so you can stay in touch.
Yeah, great. Excellent. Okay. So we have get a campaign of information, talk to one another. Susie.
What if I don't have anything else to say?
That's fine. I bet the people back there will be happy.
You know what I think.
Yeah.
You know what I think.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to say that we've just accomplished it. We had a difficult conversation. We thought about it from different points of view. And thank you very much. And to our very brave participants.
Thank you.
Thank you.